old friend of mine, David, very old friend, 40 years I know you. Yeah, and I met you in Crywatch, wasn't it?
And the pub, I think it was.
Or would we fighting in one of the pubs in Carnarvon?
More than likely, with the rest of the Welsh battalion.
The award we are going to receive today for the honour that you've been doing, my friend here, Jeff, will read out what you got it for.
Thanks.
Well, before I start, my name is Jeff Rees. I'm with British and Welsh Athletics, and this presentation is to David Ellis. It should have been presented in 1923, but I was really in 24. This is going to be presented now. Citizens, for the presentation of 2024 Welsh Athletic Service Awards goes to David Ellis. David is a lifelong member of our area areas, who has for the past 50 years has been proactive in the development of the Snowdon Mountain Marathon races. During that time, he has also promoted the cross-country and road races throughout of North Wales. Over the years, David has served the club with distinction as a chairman, secretary, coach, race organiser, fundraiser, referee, educator, course measurer and timekeeper. He has also undertaken a number of these roles at regional and national levels. He has also made a significant contribution to the organisation and delivery of all the endurance events from grassroots and up to elite level. David's involvement in this delivery of major events include refereeing the World Mountain Running Championships at Betws-y-Coed, refereeing the Cardiff Half Marathon, measuring the first Ironman course in the United Kingdom. His outstanding service and contribution to his club was a reward when, in 1990, he became a life member. In addition to his various roles within the area areas, his dedication to the organisation and delivery of endurance events throughout North Wales and beyond makes him a worthy representative of Welsh athletics, and this award goes to you.
Thank you very much.
Well,
And you never cried.
Thanks very much.
You should have had a tear, shouldn't you?
I'll say a few words if you don't mind. I only asked for a few people to come here tonight, and obviously there's a reason for why as well, and I'll show you a few things afterwards that reflect on the past possibly. Obviously, on my right here, everybody, there wouldn't be Snowdon race, it wouldn't be in Early Harriers. Ken started it all, but I remember Joan telling me a story, and it was interesting what you told me the other night. The reason I brought Joan here was one of the first winners of the race from the local area here, but you've lived here how many years?
Nearly 60 years actually.
Yeah,
60, yeah.
An inspiration to everybody going on your bike to Archwen. That's a couple of years I saw you, it's still going at your age.
Fine.
But if you could tell us the story about when you went to Ben Nevis, and women weren't allowed to race at the time, were they?
No.
So how did you turn that around?
Well, my husband had applied for the Ben Nevis races in the early 70s, and he said, an entry for me, which was returned with this as an all men's race. Women aren't allowed. So he said, oh, but he noticed that there was a record for a woman going up and down Ben Nevis. So he said, well, somebody's done this, and could I go and see if I could do a better time? And they ummed and hard, and in the end they said yes, I could, but I couldn't run with the men. I had to start a minute after them. So there, for those who've done the Ben Nevis, you parade around the field. And you know, it's all a big parade, isn't it? So all the men went off, and there was me standing in the middle, feeling an
On your
absolute
own?
idiot on my own, feeling very, very conspicuous. And then I could go, so I went off and ran after them, and obviously caught some of them up, and came down. And obviously I beat this lady's record because I think, in truth, you know, she was walking really, so it wasn't that difficult. But then the next year, I didn't do it, I was injured. But then the following year, a couple of the other girls that from the lakes, because there were only really races in the lakes at this time. There weren't many local races at all until the really Harriers got off the ground and the 1,000 metres had started. So a group of us asked, and they said we could start, but we couldn't have the Ben Nevis race. We had to hide that wording on our vests, just have numbers. And again, we couldn't start with the men. We had to start after the men. So we did, because it meant we could go. And in fact, the only first official, that must have been in, I think it would be 75, the first time I did the event, 74 I think it was. When was the first Snowden? 76?
76.
Yeah, so it would be 75 I think, because I didn't do 76, so I was injured for Snowden. And in 1980, women were officially allowed, but having travelled up overnight on the train, because I didn't think I'd be going because the kids had gone back to school, so it used to be a family trip up for the weekend. I was persuaded to go up, so I went up overnight on the train, woke up in the morning, couldn't see a thing. Anyway, got caught up with everybody up in Fort William, and we all got on the field, and it was cancelled. The weather was appalling. It's the only time it's ever been cancelled. So it was a good weekend, because I actually went running with all these girls I'd never run with before, because there weren't many women running around here at all at the time. So yeah, so it was good. And then eventually women, obviously, we could run the race. But some of the longer races, like the Yorkshire Three Peaks, and even the 1,000 metres and the Ennerdale, initially we couldn't run the long races. We had to do the short races until we complained enough and they let us do the longer ones, which was good, because we knew we could do it.
Were you stronger than the men?
Yeah, well, I agree.
the women got the best record for this long distance running, because I used to do ultra running as well.
Yeah.
And the women could outrun the men at the end.
I think my strength is certainly stamina rather than speed, and I think a lot of women.
They can keep going all the time.
Yeah.
Where the men got to stop.
Yeah.
They'll stop.
Yeah.
Just like my wife, she keeps on talking all the time.
Yeah. Oh, Dennis does this.
This was the same in Italy.
Sorry?
When we went over to Italy in 1981,
Yeah.
women weren't allowed to run in the Top Haven only.
Yes, yeah.
And then they came here, didn't they? And they found out that women are allowed to run to the top with the men.
Yeah.
And they decided to change it all.
Yeah, no, it's...
The reason I obviously asked you to come here was because when we started the kids division of the Harriers, we had no idea about training methods and all that, and we used to take them on a Sunday, Ken and myself, and your generosity as a youth hostel, yourself and Dennis, Harvey and Rosie at the time, John Pope and his wife, your Dave and your sister.
Kath. Sister Kath,
Yeah, Kath, and you know, the door was always open, and when the kids came, they always got a welcome, they always got a cold drink, they always got some sort of biscuits or a cake, you know, and your generosity, that's what I remember, and that doesn't leave me.
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
just going to see them taking part.
You're so good with everybody.
Yeah.
And then we go to Malcolm, you know, was there, he was doing races before the Snowden race came around, and with 50, I mean, inspiration, ran through it with cancer. You know, you can't write the book, could you?
Yeah.
What do you remember, Malcolm, about race number 1? Did you think you'd be able? So ti'n meddwl, so ti'n mam am 50?
Well, no, I wouldn't think so, but I can remember, as you said, I was running before that, and, you know, we went with a club with Brian, Timms, and then I met you, and we used to go to Nant Gwynant and so on. And then there was a programme, I think it was the news, and I saw Ken on it, talking about the race, you know, which was on the Friday night, and the race was on the Saturday, and then they said, well, yeah, we've got this race coming on, blah, 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 and I said, hold on, and that's, I can remember seeing it, and said, right, I'm going to do that, I'm coming here. And the bypass, as it is now, hadn't been finished by then, and then I think we had to register in the football club at the first time.
Yeah.
And I've always said this story, and parked the car by the side. I went in, and you know, to pay, obviously I said the entry fee. I had to go back to the car, ask for more money from my wife with it. I said, how much is it? It's £1. Honestly, it was £1, you know, and it was quite shocking.
That included a meal.
Yeah, and a meal, yeah.
You know, I had to go back to the car to get £1 and then go there, you know. £1, you know, nearly 50 years ago was quite a lot, you know. But I can't remember much about the race. All I can remember coming down, and it wasn't as it is now. We were running in ruts, like, you know, and that's all I can remember.
There's a film on BBC Archive with you finishing with, is it Techi's dad?
Bob.
Yeah. Ginger hair. Yeah. So you talking on the Welsh BBC Archives, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's quite. I want to download that really too.
Would that be HTV?
It must have been. It must have been. It was in Welsh, but I think HTV was doing it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I can remember into Bob was saying that.
Yeah, Bob was very good.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember Bob Bach. Bob Bach was a trainer, hard man, yeah, and lacked in a bit of common sense, to be honest with you. But I was on top of Moyle Cynhorion doing a marshal job on a Saturday morning, and who was last in the race? Bob Bach, and I shouted at him. I said to him, "Beth, what you da, and Wyddfa, Bob? And what the hell are you doing being last in the race?" "Well, I've got the flu," he said. And he said, "I'll see you later." "No," he said, "I'm going to Trevor." He said, "There's a 10k on this afternoon," he said. And he went there, he still had the flu, and unfortunately died soon after that.
He did, yeah.
And it didn't surprise anybody.
He said in the interview with you on that archive thing that what was wrong with you today, Bob? I didn't feel well. Nah, I felt okay, but the race beat me. The nerves of the race, local race, local person.
I can remember running with him, probably up Snowdon, you know, and hold on, what's wrong? And he went up to the nearest stone and kicked it, so the clicked his knee back into position. Honestly, and then carried on. He was a hard man, you know.
Yeah, he was.
Move on to Anwell there. Anwell, I know, Anwell, I'm amazed at what he does. You know, he's out every weekend. He gives his time and his generosity. He manages the team, the international team, takes the kids team. Organised last weekend the junior trials for Wales in Caesarea there. And you know, nobody, until you finish, nobody knows how important you are to the setup in the club. You know, and I think you should be rewarded if you haven't already been rewarded. You know, you give your time so unselfishly there. Yeah.
Well, the president is here. I'm sure he's listening.
I hope so. I've given him 50 quid.
There's no any snipers, you know.
Not only that, he's taking notes. He's taking notes.
But that shows how important the Linton races are as well. By the way, last Sunday you were with us in Vaughan, weren't you?
Yeah.
And that's just how, what's 40 odd children? Or 40 children. But David Helms in the Linton races as well, as a large races.
He does,
So how important Linton races are as well. Those are as important as the, you know, I'm not taking anything away from you, Stephen, but some little races are important as well. And starting with the juniors, you know, those are going to be the future, really, aren't they?
Well, I've taken inspiration from Ken, David, come back.
I think, you know, moving to Ken, well, you know, he asked me in 1976 or so, we got a children's race on, bring the two sons up, he said. They were shorter runners, and I brought them up and I thought, what a crazy idea, you know, but you know, Ken was the inspiration behind the Snowdon race, behind the Eddie Harriers, and he worked hard, put his effort and time into it, and it tells in the end, you know, it takes over your life, possibly. And Ken's got so many stories, I would imagine, that I have from a meeting with him. My wife made a lunchbox for us to go down to a bit further in with us, Lamb Peter.
Oh,
And he was very quiet in the back seat there behind me, and when it went time for me to have something to eat, he'd eaten all everything that was in the box. But an inspiration to us all, I'm sure, and that sort of twinning with Morbenio and CSI Morbenio as well, you know, what better way to go. You know, it's worked wonderfully well, and it's all down to this man, isn't it? You know.
I can remember the first meeting, 76 or 77, I think it was, wasn't it? They were already starting in 77, didn't they? After the snow. The meeting was here, wasn't it? And we were on the committee.
Hugh Davies was the secretary.
Yeah.
I got a copy of Hugh's minutes.
I have that as well. Yeah. It was only
the strangest thing that happened.
I think Bob was there as well, wasn't he?
After the first London Marathon, I met John Disley and Chris Brescia then in Pennybury. Brescia was chain smoker.
Oh yeah.
And Harvey was there, and they were on about the London Marathon, and I don't know who mentioned the fact he had an idea to run around Snowton. And there was a big map still there of the fireplace in Pennybury. And we sort of worked it out. And I suddenly remember there was a signpost outside. Cranberry 7, but Beargell at 6. So that was half the marathon. And John sent the guy who measured the London Marathon up with a bike. I remember picking up at Bangor Station, and he measured it. And then it was decided that the National Trust, who were going to organise it, he asked me to organise the event on the day and so on. And there was a guy with the National Trust, Elvin Lewis, who came.
He was seconded from Barclays Bank, I think, wasn't he?
And he worked for the National Trust. And he was with me all day and all day of the base. And he had the little whiskey flags. And so where's this going to happen? Anyway, the whole thing went was a success. Jeff Norman won.
Did we do, sorry, we did it in sections, didn't we? We did the run, there's about 4 of us.
Testing it.
Yes, and we did in sections, say from, I can remember then, this guy Elbert was there.
When we initially thought you only needed 3 marshals, one in Pen of Pass, one in Megillot and one in Merrow. Anyway, it was more complicated. But this guy Elbert Lewis invited Harvey and myself for a meal on a Sunday night to his house on the Denby Moors. And we went there. And the next thing we heard was his son had come home from college and shot both him and his wife dead. Do you remember that?
I remember that,
So I always remember that when I hear about the marathon.
But John Disley, I had the pleasure of, with Ken's help, he's got his cottage in Capercaillig. So I've got 1.5 hours of him on film. And it's never been, nobody's interested. So I went to BBC asking for Welsh legends, you know. And we call like the Welshman who got Britain running. William de Marathon. So I've got that at home, and it's just he's never done an interview. He's never done an interview, and he's been in front of the fire and he's just talking about everything, and it's just brilliant. And then I'm filming with his daughter now, Kate Disley. So we're trying to do something with her as well. So, but John Disley's stories in when I was in that chair for an hour and a half. You could have stayed, like Ken was saying, just people he was talking about, and you could stay there for 6 hours. But 1.5 hours felt 2 minutes. There's one story with snow race. Ken, because my dad was helping as well, so I was helping. I remember going to Ken's house on the Sunday after the race, sorted the certificate again in the back room, and put in an envelope like that. So I was only 13, 14. And I think I was 15 something, and Nats West was sponsoring the race. And this guy Simon had come up with a massive truck which was open out to be a corporate marquee or something. And you could never do this now. And Ken said, the Irish are stuck in Holyhead, we haven't got a bus to pick them. And then Simon said, I'll go and get them with a lorry. So he went to Holyhead and I was with them. And then he just reversed it to this fence. And around 15 Irishmen went into the back lorry, put the shutter down, and then we were coming over Britannia Bridge. And the radio was on and I switched it off, and what's that noise? And we opened it in Llanberry, so they were staying in there a while. And we opened the shutter and they were there on top of the stuff with the violins and singing away like that. And after the race, I don't think, I was only 16, I had to go to bed, so that was 4 in the morning. I coming home then with Ken, Dad and Ernest. Oh God, you should have stayed to them. It was just good all day. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Cracking stories there.
Yeah, they're good tales, aren't they?
John Disney, when I brought John's, Ken used to take me to Pennacoda there, and he was so generous. There was a lad that worked with me in Norway, and his daughter was very ill, and she eventually died of meningitis at 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he was pulling his hair out that he couldn't do anything and raise money for meningitis, and he phoned me, and this was only about 2 months before the London Marathon, and he said, can you get me into the London Marathon? I want to raise money for the meningitis trust. He said, well, I said, I don't know, but I know the guy who sort of organised it, or, you know, John Disley was there with Chris Fraser from the start, obviously. So I called John up, and he said, the first thing he said, he can have my number. Well, you know, he controlled the race anyway. Yeah. So he gave the number, and he I think he made £20,000 for the meningitis trust. But I never like to use anybody because, you know, a quick way shortcut into something. Yeah. But he gave me this jacket, and it was his 2002. Yeah. I remember him distinctly on the television, standing on the finishing line and guiding people in with this jacket on him, and he gave me that. And he also gave me a lot of I saw him a couple of times on my own, and I knew I'd seen when I was a kid John Disley with Mick Jagger climbing in Llanberis Pass. And he says, climb when you're ready, Michael, he said. And Mick Jagger was giving up a scraggy youth, you know. And I did ask him once, apparently Ken knows better than I do, that he was Mick Jagger's godfather. And he gave an eulogy at Mick Jagger's father. Both of them were in college together, I think. That's what he said to me. And he told me a few stories about the Jagger family as well, but I won't repeat them. But his generosity, you know, people like that, and I think he helped Ken a great deal as well. When Tim Rice was there, Ken. Helped the race.
That correspondent for money, you know, to promote the race. And check, I think it was £1,800 came from the Tim Rice charity fund.
Wow, gosh,
Remember, we had Kathy Cook, didn't we? Okay. Anthony Kathy Cook, though. The British athlete, Kathy, the athlete, she came to the field, she started the race, with TSB Bank. Yeah. And then John had Mars Bar, Mars sponsors the Nats West, TSB, and Kathy Cook.
So who was the girl cyclist?
The story about John, he was staying in the Royal.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
In Capicuri.
I remember her running. She was a good 400-metre runner.
John was staying in the Royal in Capicuri.
Yeah.
Just after the war, there was no train, nothing at all.
Yeah.
You know, and the owner was a German guy. And I don't know how the people of Capicuri treated the German hotel manager soon after the war. Anyway, John was talking to him, there's nobody staying in the hotel. And he said to John, I'm going to sell this place. And there's no point selling it as a hotel. Nobody comes to stay here. So he had that idea to change it into the National Sports Centre. And he went down, he got in touch with the English Sports Council then. And that's how Ras Y Wyddfa came through. He always said he stayed there on the last night because the Royal Hotel, and when he woke up in the morning it was Ras Y Wyddfa. He signed the
agreement,
the deeds or whatever.
He told me as well that when he was marking the course for London Marathon, Chris Fraser was more of a stats man and getting the sponsors, where John was more practical. And then because he was marking the course, he knew exactly when the washing machine was on, who was doing the washing on the Monday, and they were just getting so used to John going out marking the course. The stories is just unbelievable.
And everything was done in the early days without a computer, just
absolutely.
Pen and paper.
Littlewood's Pools used their company to do the entries. That's what he told me. So
the other one was obviously Ken's great friendship with Gian Pietro Botta in Morbegno as well, and I had the pleasure of going over there about 4 times. I ran in an international team that we were 3rd overall. Me, John, the Capelcerig, John Pope, myself, Arthur Clarke, and myself, a combined age of about
That's
180.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we won this third. There's only 3 teams there. We had some wine. We had some wine the night before, hosted as usual in Marbella.
Yeah.
And I didn't know at the time. I was from Llanberis. I wasn't a boffin or anything like that. But there was something in the wine that made me have an attack of asthma. So I ran around the course, and we were last in the international teams. Yeah. But we got the biggest trophy you've ever seen. And every time somebody came into the house, how did you win that? I said, we're 3rd international team in Italy. So this was the best. They gave me membership card, and Gian Pietro Botta, one of Ken's main people, you know, that's built a relationship with him. This is the vest I was given at one time. I wouldn't fit into it these days, I don't think. And this is the membership card for CSI Marbella, and I'm in debt to the club from 1994 for the subs. Yeah, we used to do as well. John, like you said, I was invited by John Disley to become a course measurer, and he forced me to go to Coventry in a course. And all it was Oxford, Cambridge boffins from the colleges, and measuring, and the heat difference of a steel tape in 100 metres and 1,000 metres or whatever it was, you know. And I thought, oh God, I had an old banger on a bike which I had from my father for passing the 11 plus. And that's how I got it. I think I'm the only one alive, and you. I was in a course in 37 years ago. I did the measuring course, and I still measure the courses, you know, although my knees hurt and everything. And the same with you, isn't it? Most of them I've had an accident. Somebody's hit them with a car. But I've nearly been rolled over by a tractor once or twice as well. But that's how the road racing began. John asked me to go there. And going back with Ken as well, we were guests at the London Marathon. You remember? Fatima Whitbread and Tessa Sanderson on the same table as us. And we were put in the stand, and who was in the stand? Frank Boff of the sports.
He was caught.
Yeah. And the next day, Frank Boff is there. We were there from Llanberis, you know, and the next day, the big headline in the papers, all the photographers there taking Frank Boff's photo. What we didn't know, the headline in the next day was Frank Boff seen leaving a sex club.
With Ken and David.
He paid the bill. Harvey Lloyd, obviously, I've tried contacting Harvey so many times to be here. Again, very generous, and obviously the 1,000 metres race, you know, Harvey worked so hard on that. And one of the things I remember with him is quite funny, actually. We were in the field in Aber, the start of the race, maybe pre-COVID, post-COVID, anyway. And all the Portaloos was lined up there about 6 o'clock in the morning. That's the time we used to get the bus would come from the Vic, drop the runners down, and off they go. The early start was 6:30 or something. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came this farmer in a pair of wellies and a cap across the field. And I thought, I was sitting in the car in a cuppa by this, and there's trouble ahead. I said, and being a Welsh speaker, obviously, I thought, I'll calm the waters down. And he said to Harvey, Harvey now being the sort of boffin of, what is it, the navigational skills, Harvey, and he was lecturing these people about the use of a compass and map and all that, great references and all this. And the farmer said to him, what are you doing here? And Harvey said, there's a race on here, he said. Well, nobody told me, he said, and it's my field, he said. And Harvey was in the wrong field. The man was doing navigational skills. The next thing, the wife comes, short woman, sturdy, had a pair of wellies and a skirt on, and she said to her husband, "Beth sy'n mynd ymlaen efo yma?" What's going on here, she said, And he said, "Well, now you bloody race yn mynd ymlaen efo. There's a bloody race going on here." And she said, "I ofyn o am bres." Yes, she said, asking for some money, the farmer's wife said. So Harvey gave her 50 quid cash, and she said, "Oh, we want more than that," she said. So he gave her 100 quid, because he was in the wrong field, and it was time for the race to go off. And the next thing, they're walking off now, happy as hell. and they waved at Harvey, said, "See you next year." Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah. Now, more Llythyr John here just gave me some numbers for a race. Yeah, just generous again, you know. There's, I'll pass these round so you have to. The twinning here with CSI Morbenio, there's Joe and me, Petroli, private Petroli, do you know that? Joe and me, private Petroli. There's just a few, and during that time, during the period we were here as well, Mike Pepper, myself, Jeff Clegg, not to forget Jeff as well. I used to do the newsletter. I used to type it with and get some Pritt stick, cut it with the scissors, and glue all this together once a month with Pepper, and obviously Jeff would put it together then. Do you remember that, Malcolm?
Yeah.
Load of them, the information sheets for the race.
I think I got the first one at home.
Yeah. Photos from Italy here. One of you praying by the toilet there.
Praying?
And you're lucky it's not in here. One of the trips to Italy, and with Ken, Gary, my son, was there with him, and they had a great time up here. You and Gary there. I'll pass it round after. And they were great times as well. I think I've said enough, to be honest with you. Steve's going to be very busy in the morning. There's a photo here of the old committee of the Snowdon race. Joe and Gary, yeah?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I love that photo.
I know that one. That's the
yeah, you're in there.
That's the Nats West
That's
trip.
West. Oh well, he's in class with me. Yeah, Gary, yeah, Joe. And this is us with Kevin Keegan, the English manager, when we won they won the relay race in near Denby there. Yeah. So we took all the kids there. Luckily for me, one of the people I haven't mentioned is David Allen Williams. Do you come here? David Allen Williams.
Sorry.
David Allen Williams.
Oh yeah.
Everything was done, even when computers came out. He was writing everything with a Bible. And in the beginning, we had no races. You know, we wouldn't win the race, the Lady Harriers, the juniors. In the end, we were the dominant force then. We were winning more races than the other clubs were. And I remember once one of the kids there was running and he was second. I'm not sure, he could have been Matt Ward, I don't know who it was. But they were like rabbits in the light. They just faced by all these badges these people had on them. And the kids felt possibly inferior to all these confident people. And this, somebody shouted out, he was second going into the finishing line, and he shouted, "Oh, come on, Toby, come on, Toby, you have absolutely nothing to beat," he said, shouted like that. And this lad said to me, "Do you know something, David?" He said, "When they said that there, it made me worse," he said, "and I just got some steam out and passed him and won the race." He settled for second place, but these people said, "You've got nothing to beat," you know, and just bang. That was enough to get the motivation levels up. But they were good days because I was able to subsidise every travel trip to the cross country and all that. Dinorwig was on the go, sell 2 football cards in a week, and that subsidised everything. Took him down to Cardiff. Dylan from Carnarvon was second. Steve Jones won that. Steve Jones, which I've spoken to with you, isn't it? Steve Jones, the marathon record holder at the time, 2 hours 8 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah. And I put them up in a hostel in Brecon, and they said the next one, it's a lovely night there, we could see the stars and everything. "Oh, that's good." I said, "No, we were seeing the stars through the roof." He said, "There was nobody's slates on the roof, a big water dripping in." That's, but you know, just, who was the other one? Malcolm Arnold, the coach, came up from London. Colin Jackson's coach, you know him, yeah? Colin Jackson's coach and Linford Christie's coach, wasn't he? He came down to Carnarvon to do us a few coaching courses, and I took him to Yscol. I said, "You when you're standing in the field?" And he said, "Where's the track then?" He said to me. I said, "Oh, there's no track here, it's just a field." I said, "It's marked with creosote," and we trained there. I took him up to Llanberis afterwards, and Ken gave him half a dozen eggs, and I showed him Ken's eggs. He was Milford, where was he? Something, the coach. Millfield. Millfield. Coach all these people in Millfield. So I took him to Ken's house. Ken gave him half a dozen eggs. Within 3 weeks, Colin Jackson had broken 110 metres hurdles world record, and we reckon it was eating Ken's eggs.
It was because of the eggs.
Yeah. They were selling for £1 each if you had Llanberis.
I'm just going to say, as a current organiser of Snow Race, well deserved hwnna, David.
Diolch yn fawr ti, Steve.
Dwi eisiau diolch I Ken hefyd am ysbrydoli fi, inspiration of, well, it wasn't inspiration actually, I think it was all planned back in 2009 when the committee said, David said, organised for 3 years before that, and then I was in the committee and they must have planned it already. They said, I'm finishing now, David said, so who's organising out? And they just pointed at me because I was the youngest one there, really.
Although you had the technical skills, the world was changing and you had the skills.
Yeah, but like Ken did 30 years, Jane did 3 years, I think so. You did 3 years.
I did 3. I said to the committee, when Ken goes, I'm going as well. So Trevor said to me, well, stick around for a bit because you know all the team managers and all that. And that's what I did. I stayed for 3 years and Steve took over.
And after that, it's just from being Dad, Ernest, yourself, everybody, like that photo from age of 12, you just get into it like you are. The times have changed now. It's quite hard to get the youngsters to come and help, really, you know. So it'd be quite pity that where the race is going, but Ken's done 30 odd years and there's others, but next year the race will be 50 years old. We've lost COVID too, but you haven't lost your birthday, so the race still is 50. Although it's we're going to celebrate the race as 50 next year.
There's a person that's only done them.
But there'll be 48 races, but next year.
So we've got 2 to do after 50.
I'll be
since the race started.
That's fine. That's what we are going to celebrate next year, and I'll be 50 as well. And that's my time. I'm finishing then.
You're going to do for the next 2 years, so I can compete.
Well, I've been saying that, but I think finishing 21, 22, I think when I'm 50 and the race is 50, I think it's a nice time for me to step away.
Is there anybody on the horizon? Are you
I don't know.
Anybody?
No, it's just like like David and Ken know my battery levels are.
Well, from what it started.
Well, and you're volunteering as well, and I've got my own work to do, and the times are ticking off really with the family as well. So it's just
massive event.
So it's a huge event, but it's a huge event, iconic event worldwide, but it's quite disappointing that it doesn't get the recognition that it should have. When you see, I know the president of the Welsh Athletics is here, but when you see other events getting these major titles and things like that, you know, and I think we've had part like a Grand Prix here, like we had 2 years ago, we had the world part of the world champ, but we as a race had to pay to be involved in three grand, I think it was 3.5 grand. But if we want the world champs, you've got to pay them around $250,000 to get it here. So it's huge money, but I think
you won't get that money back either, will you?
No, I think I'm not being political, but the way events are going, there's loads of them, and the race for me is iconic. But also it's from Llanberis, isn't it? Like,
that's
it's
right.
emotional, isn't it?
Well, that's how a lot of fell races started as village things, didn't they? You know, all the fell races in the lakes.
Well, for us, like the Snowdon race started running around here. Now you've got half a dozen clubs here. You know, that's bounced off it. And eventually it was going to happen anyway, wasn't it? But
I think you need to carry on as volunteers. We get sponsors, okay, but the cost of doing it is going up and up and up. But we can't get funding from the government because we are not a company, and that's we don't want to be a company. So it's quite hard, really, you know. We do get the Italian team this year is quite strong. The Irish team is quite strong. The Italians and the ladies is quite strong this year. But to get like the France, Spain, we would have to pay for them to come here.
You know, going up and down.
No,
I tried that years ago.
You're going to put them up there,
Steve? We have the Germans here, the Swiss came here, and they don't run downhill in the other countries. All the other races finish at the top.
It is an iconic,
Italians are the only ones, and Slovenia. They run up and down.
Yeah.
I think he does need to get especially next year, it's 50 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it should get the recognition that it should have, really.
Yeah.
But
I know for the fact that the Welsh Athletics aren't in the best financial position these days, are they?
It's not just Welsh Athletics, it's British Athletics.
British Athletics are bankrupt.
Yeah.
It's not Welsh Athletics.
We are putting money into British Athletics. Northern Ireland, Welsh Athletics, Scottish Athletics and England. As you know, if it wasn't for Brendan Foster in the London Marathon, British Athletics would have went. You know, they're
pumping money into it.
Yeah, well they have taken over British Athletics.
we'll move away from politics.
Yeah. Just to finish with you.